What, are you moving out?
Are you moving out for sure?
You're moving to Atlanta and you're wondering, like, what is the best suburb to raise a family? I mean, I want my kids to go to a really great school. I want, you know, the youth sports and the parks and recreation and all those things to be great for them. I want to make sure that I raise them up right and that they have all the opportunities that I had and even more growing up. But like, I still like to kind of take my wife out on a date night, go to a really good restaurant, maybe hit up a bar occasionally, want to go to a music concert, I want to go to professional sporting, I want economic opportunity, but I don't want to pay an arm and a leg for it. So like, where can I make a lot of money and get an affordable home and raise great kids and have a life of my own? Well, you're in luck. My name's Denny. I'm married with 4 young children. That's exactly what my life looks like. And I've lived in and around Atlanta and Georgia for most of my life. And in this video, I'm going to tell you the top 5 suburbs in Atlanta where you can still have a life and raise a family. And so if you're looking for the best suburbs for families in Atlanta, stick around and we're going to get after it right now. So before we dive in, I want to give you a quick disclaimer. See, as a licensed realtor, we are not allowed to steer our clients in any way, nor would I want to, because my opinion of something doesn't mean that it's the best thing for you. See, all of this is meant to be part of your due diligence. So this video you should take with a grain of salt, because while it does come with a lot of experience, both professionally and personally, you and I are different people. We have different families. We live different lives. And so my goal is to tell you about all these different suburbs that are great for families and ultimately empower you to make a decision that's best for you. Now, part of that process and the way that we do our jobs and that can help us do a better job is if you join the conversation. So we always welcome you. If you disagree with us, let us know in the comments below. We read them all, we respond to all of them, and it helps us with our future content creation to make sure we're creating value-driven content that's good for you. And the comments that you leave actually provide value for everyone else. Enough about that. Again, we're licensed realtors. We cover the entire metro Atlanta area. So while we love these videos, we love even more helping you find the perfect community and the perfect home. So whether it's next week, next year, or anytime in between, call, text, email, schedule a Zoom. We'd be happy to help you make a smooth move, and let's dive right in. And coming in at number 5, we have Decatur. Now, as we go through this list, I want to kind of tell you where they're at too. So Atlanta is circled by an interstate called 285. Inside of that circle, we call it ITP, inside the perimeter, and outside of it, we call OTP, outside of the perimeter. And on that circle, if you'll treat it kind of like a clock with hands, 12 being up here, then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I'm going to tell you where things are at based on that little example, because I think it helps you visualize. But we'll do this for each suburb. Decatur is inside of the perimeter, and it's at about probably the best, I'd say the number 1 suburb period inside of the perimeter, and it comes in at number 5 on our list for the best places in all of metro Atlanta to raise a family. It's kind of got that like urban and suburban feel. You get a good mix of both of it. You have a good mix of the old and the new. So the downtown square is very historic, and there's shops and restaurants and bars and boutiques and a lot of energy, a really thriving downtown area. It's also got a MARTA station right there in the downtown square and a thriving bus route. So there's access to public transit. You can get to, into the city in 20 minutes by the train, or you could get probably about the same time, about 20-25 minutes in a car. You can get to Ponce City Market, which is a great big large fairly new mixed use development, in about 15 minutes. You can get to Mercedes-Benz for a game in about 25 minutes. You can get to the airport in 30 to 35 minutes depending on traffic. And so like I said, the location is great. There's tons of families and young professionals. If you don't want to live like in the city or in Midtown, a lot of those young professionals end up over there in Decatur. It's got a high home ownership. About 2/3, maybe 67% of people that live in Decatur own their own home, and the median home value is about $600,000. But the median income, household income, is also $125,000. So there's a nice ratio. It's not that it's cheap, but if you are making good money, it is somewhat affordable for living into the city in close proximity to the city. Now, aside from being in the city, I don't know if you know this, but Atlanta is called the city in the forest. It has more tree canopy than any other city in the country, and Decatur is surrounded by great parks and recreations, things of that nature. So tons of stuff to do as a family or for these young professionals. And are you a retiree? Does any of this sound good to you? I don't know if a lot of retirees live in the Decatur area. I'm sure they did at one time, but with all of the growth lately, I'm kind of curious. I want to kind of look that up after we're done. Decatur is a very diverse place. There's about 25,000 people. That's around the approximate population. And so I'm sure there are some retirees there. I don't know how many, but you'll find educational diversity, economic, ethnic diversity. You'll find gay, straight, everything in between. Like, it is very much your prototypical melting pot. If there was a suburb on this list that is a melting pot, it would be Decatur. It's in DeKalb County. I think it's the only suburb on the list that's in DeKalb County. Fulton County is very long and narrow, and so from south to north it's a long way, but from side to side it's super skinny. And so this northeast corridor of inside the perimeter is in DeKalb County. Of the top side, that'll be in Fulton County. Then over on the left side, you get over into Cobb County. So Decatur is in DeKalb County. While we're talking about DeKalb, I want to tell you a little bit about a neighborhood called Lake Claire. Like, I could have easily put it on the list independently, but it's less of a suburb and more of a neighborhood, and it is butts up right against DeKalb. So it's a little bit closer to the city. So take 5 minutes off of all those commute times that I shared with you earlier. Lake Claire, the home values are a little bit higher, around $650,000 is the median instead of $600,000. Incomes are significantly higher. The median is about $160,000 instead of $125,000. 82% of the residents of Lake Claire own their own home. And so if you're kind of looking for yet another less urban, less downtown, more just like secluded neighborhood vibe, then you want to check out Lake Claire. Now let's see who comes in at number 4. Peachtree City is on the south side of the city. It's outside of the perimeter, and if you'll remember our clock, it's at about 7 o'clock. I'd say it's probably maybe 30 minutes to the airport, because the airport is also on the south side. So if you do have to commute to the airport, that's a great place to live if you're raising a family. Because of that, Peachtree City for a long time was referred to as Delta City, because it felt like Delta's headquarters is in Atlanta, and it felt like all of the pilots and all of the employees lived in Peachtree City. They actually built a 100-mile golf cart trail all around the city, so you can literally go to shopping, dining, parks, schools, restaurant, everything you can think of, you can get to on a golf cart. So if you're looking for that lifestyle, there's more and more of it becoming popular these days, but Peachtree City's been doing that forever. And so it's a great community if you're looking to, not really be dependent on your car all the time. The schools are second to none. They're some of the best in the entire country, so you're going to get your kids are going to get a great education. The parks and recreation, the youth sports, the extracurricular activities, the hiking, biking, walking, fishing, all of that stuff, you kind of get like a suburban rural feel. Like in Peachtree City, you can get that definitely suburb feel, but you can get a little bit away from the city center and very much get into some rural land if you want to do that too. And so while we called it, Delta City, Delta's not the only business there. There's a thriving economy, and because of that, the median income is $103,000. There's about 38,000 people, and the median home value is right at $400,000. So definitely still, in today's terms, very much affordable place to live. It's a very safe place to live, so you don't really have that urban element, as Decatur was more like a urban suburban. This is more like suburban rural, and then you're going to have more of a conservative political climate, whereas Decatur was more on the liberal side. And so you're going to get not that everyone's welcome. It's a very diverse place, both ethnically, economically, and everything in between. So you're going to find a little bit of everything in Peachtree City, but it is a fabulous place to live. It's been a long time top 5 best suburbs to raise a family, and one of the best places to live in Georgia. And for now, it comes in at number 4. Coming in at number 3 is a place that I know very well because it's very close to home, and that is Milton, Georgia. Now, I'll get the data out of the way first so I can really talk to you more about the lifestyle and what it feels like to raise a family in Milton. There's about 40,000 residents of Milton, and it's a fairly new in terms of being formed as its own little suburb. It used to get lumped in a lot with Crabapple and Roswell and Alpharetta because of the proximity, but the home values are about $650,000 is the median, although here in Milton you have lots of celebrities and athletes from the Atlanta area that live here, and they have some very large estates, so you could have 10, 15, 20 million dollars. Chipper Jones just sold his place, I want to say for $13 million, and so in Milton you'll find tons of very rural feeling horse farms, animal type, lots of acreage. I want to say the minimum lot requirement in Milton is 1 acre, but the city really pressures a lot of developers into doing 3 acres or more. So you're going to see a lot of, you know, 4-board horse fences as you drive around. And then they're going to have a really small, tight-knit kind of a downtown area where they want to keep all of the commercial businesses, but you'll still have a thriving downtown area with boutiques and shops and coffee shops and restaurants and bars and breweries and you know, barbershops and salons and all the stuff you would expect in like a thriving mixed-use development downtown area. But it's all also very new because it's been built in the last maybe 10 years. So Milton is one of those places that's absolutely exploding. So I say the median home value is about $650,000, but it can be a lot higher than that. But the median incomes are up there as well. The median income in the Milton household income in the Milton area is about $140,000. And so if you live there, you're making really good money. It's not the most diverse place in the world. I'd say it's about mostly 65% white, and then about the same for Asian and Black, around 10 to 15%. And then you have a Hispanic population in there too, but not very much. So not the most diverse place in the world, but a fabulous place to live. I call it more like rural suburban, whereas Peachtree City was more like suburban rural. Flip-flop that. But the proximity to Alpharetta, Roswell, Woodstock, and all of these other areas means Milton's like perfectly kind of tucked away over there. The access to 400, you're going to add a few more minutes to commute if you're comparing it to one of those other suburbs I just mentioned. So there's no direct access. You got to go through one of those other areas first. The parks, recreation, tons of parks and recreation. The schools in downtown Milton, you actually have the high school, middle school, and elementary school right there. And so lots of kids that live close to that downtown area literally walk to school. The schools are second to none, the best in the country, and a very safe place to live. Parents feel, you know, really comfortable having their kids just walk out the front door, and, you know, whether it's 100 yards or a half a mile to school. Now, I mentioned the golf cart trails in Peachtree City. Milton is very much trying to create they call them low speed vehicle, LSV, a low speed vehicle friendly downtown area, so that if you don't want to walk, you can ride a bike, you can walk, or you can hop on your golf cart / low speed vehicle and get to dinner or get to school or go get your hair cut or run around without really being car dependent. So I do love that about Milton, and it doesn't shock me that it comes in at the number 3 best place to raise a family. Well, coming in at number 2 best suburbs to raise a family on our list is none other than my home, which is Alpharetta, Georgia. It's the number 1 suburb in Atlanta. It's the number 1 suburb in the state, but according to niche.com, it's the number 2 place to raise a family. And, you know, I'm not going to split hairs over number 1, number 2, number 3. If you're in the top 5, it is a great place to raise a family. Alpharetta, if you're using our clock, it's outside the perimeter on the north side at about 1 o'clock. If you know 75, 85, they kind of go like this up north. 400 goes straight up the middle. So it's off of 400, exit 9, 10, and 11 would be the easiest. And Alpharetta, as you can imagine, has extremely low crime. So it's a safe place to live. Like many of the other suburbs we talked about, has some of the best schools, hands down, in the state and in the country. The youth sports are thriving. So if you have kids like mine, all 4 of my kids do soccer, gymnastics, jiu-jitsu, baseball, like you name it, they're doing it. So it's a fabulous place for youth sports. Now, when it comes to having a little bit of fun, they've got it in spades in any kind that you could imagine. There's an amphitheater where really large national huge bands come and play in this amphitheater that we go to all the time, and my wife and I really love. That's like one of our favorite places to go see some of our favorite bands. If you've watched the channel at all, you know that downtown Alpharetta is by far the best downtown suburb, period. There is no question. It's all really exploded in the last 10 years, and it's got everything you could imagine, from shopping and dining and bars and restaurants, entertainment, and all the things you want. Farmers market, weekend activities, Christmas tree lighting, places for kids to play, yoga in the park, walking trails, like all of that stuff. But Alpharetta has tons of other mixed-use developments too. They have the Maxwell, which is a smaller little mixed-use development right outside of downtown. You've got the Avalon, which is by far one of the best mixed-use developments in the country, with all of the top national stores and shops and outlets and things that you can get to, as well as some of the higher-end luxury things there in the Avalon too. It's not unusual to see some, six-figure, multiple six-figure, seven-figure cars parked right there at the valet. And so Alpharetta has very much an affluent feel, but also approachable from a diversity standpoint. It's mostly white, but then you have a large Asian population and a decent African American and Hispanic population too. And so I love the kind of diverse feel in Alpharetta, both secular and very religious. Good mix of not just Christian, but many other Muslim and Hindu as well. And so you've got all of this bit of a melting pot of thriving economy, technology perspective, and finance and other industry. A lot of large headquarters moving this way, and I kind of got distracted, but I didn't even talk about Halcyon, which is on the north side of Alpharetta, which is another massive, large mixed-use development with residential homes mixed with all of the shopping and dining. A lot of the shops and restaurants and things that you'll find in Avalon or in downtown Alpharetta, you'll also find them over at Halcyon. And then kind of between downtown Avalon and Halcyon, they're about to get approval for another one called The Gathering, which is going to be a $2 billion development anchored by a venue for concerts and sports. And it's looking highly probable that that's going to be the new home of the new Atlanta NHL franchise for the National Hockey League. So you can tell I love Alpharetta, and that's why we live here, and that's why it's the #1 suburb. But they say for families it's #2, which I don't know how it gets any better than that. Our family loves it, but I'm kind of curious. Are you curious? Like, which one do you think is going to come in at #1? And when I tell you, I'd love to know if you think this list is just absolutely ridiculous. Which one would you put at #1? Which is your least favorite? Which one sounds like you? So without further ado, well, look out, Alpharetta. #1 best suburbs of Atlanta to raise a family is none other than Johns Creek, which is Alpharetta's neighbor to the right, to the east. So Milton, which is kind of the neighbor to the west, came in at #3, Alpharetta at #2, Johns Creek is at #1. So it's outside of the perimeter, north, up 485. It's kind of sandwiched in between those. So around the 115 mark on the clock, you will find Johns Creek. And while it came in at #1 for best place to raise a family, I think it might be giving Alpharetta a run for its money as the best suburb altogether in Atlanta for a couple of reasons. One, the median home values are a little bit lower, although not much. They come in around $550,000. The median incomes are just as high at $135,000 a year. About 3/4 of 75% of the population own their own home, and Johns Creek is very much a family-oriented community, so they're going to be extremely safe. So crime's going to be low, safety's going to be high, and the schools, again, every one of these places, one of the things that makes it a great place to raise a family is great public and private school options, and Johns Creek is no different. It is probably one of the more diverse real suburbs. It's a suburb in terms of the feel. And so for a long time, it felt like mostly, plenty of bars and restaurants and shopping and dining and that kind of stuff, but it was very strip mall-esque, you know what I mean? But now there's a couple of things that are happening. One is that the same developer that created Atlantic Station in Midtown and redeveloped that built the Avalon over in Alpharetta, which put it on the map, is now building one. It's 43 acres and it's going to be called Medley in Johns Creek. So Johns Creek is finally going to have its kind of anchor. Most of Johns Creek residents had to drive over to Halcyon, which isn't far, or drive over to Avalon, and now they're going to have their own, and it's the same company that's created these amazing live, work, play, mixed use environments all over the city of Atlanta, and Johns Creek is the next benefactor. Johns Creek's also, from a diversity standpoint, has a huge thriving international scene, so large Asian population as well as other international communities as well. And so the food scene in Johns Creek is probably second to none. There is a very eclectic in terms of choices for different foods, and they have the International Food Festival every year in Johns Creek. So if you're more of a foodie and you're looking for a lot of variety, then who knows, not only is Johns Creek a great place to raise a family, but it's a great place to be a foodie. So you tell me, which one was your number one? Which one did you not care for at all? If any of them, what did I miss? What kind of other insights can I give you, or context would help you make better decisions for yourself? So whether you're moving next week, next year, anytime in between, as always, call, text, email, schedule a Zoom. If you love home tours, check those out right there. If you would love to stay up to date on the market and subscribe to the channel for new content, you can do that right there. And until we see you in person, we'll see you on the next episode.